What if I told you the only thing holding you back is one belief you haven't changed yet? This framework from Aaron Spivack, who exited Hush for $48 million in 4 years, completely changed the way I see myself as a CEO. And I'm going to share that with you today. My name is Arjun. I'm the founder and CEO of Doula.com, a venture-backed tech startup here in New York City that's raised over $13 million of venture capital. And I'm not going to lie, I have faced so many pieces of internal doubt, self-doubt, imposter syndrome over the course of this journey. This 5-step framework from Aaron Spivack helped me break a massive limiting belief that was holding me back, and I think it can do the exact same for you. Let me start with Aaron's story, because this is the moment when he realized he had a limiting belief. When he was scaling Hush, they were doing really well, but then all of a sudden, the summer months hit, and their weighted blanket was just too hot, so people weren't buying the product. So at the time, they said, holy crap, we're screwed. We have a seasonal product. Why run a seasonal business? That means we're only good for one portion of the year. But then they realized, after talking to customers, the issue was the weighted blanket was too hot. All of the existing weighted blankets were simply too hot. So what he realized is, wait a second, we don't have a seasonal business, we just have a seasonal product. If you think you have a seasonal business, you're defeated. You say, let's throw it up in the air. I don't want to scale a business that's just seasonal. But if you switch that mindset and shift that limiting belief, all of a sudden that unlocked massive revenue growth for Hush. Again, small shift. Seasonal business to no, I don't have a seasonal business, I have a seasonal product. But that was a massive limiting belief that once broken led to Hush's explosive growth. Small change, but big impact. Because that limiting belief once broken led to explosive growth for Hush, who was eventually acquired for $48 million. So now let me share how I actually applied this to myself. And then I'm gonna walk through the exact 5-step framework. Look, I'm a first-time founder, so there's so many things I've never done. So I had this limiting belief in my head of, I've never scaled a company before, so I'm unable to. I've never hired people at this stage or figured out how to build this process or learned how to do this type of hire for this level of senior person. And the limiting belief in my head was, oh, maybe I'm not fit to be this CEO who can do these things. Maybe I'm just good at founding things because that's what I did. We founded. But then I realized, wait a second, the limiting belief I was holding is you don't have an inability issue, you have an inexperience issue. And that completely broke my mind because this might sound obvious. Everyone's new at something when they start for the first time. Everyone's bad at something when they start for the first time too. So the only way to get good is to do the thing. And the way you get good at something faster is you front load as much experience and repetitions as possible. So once I broke this limiting belief of, no, you're not unable or incapable, you're just inexperienced, I realized anytime I'm not doing something well, I just need to front load as much experience and reps as possible. And then I know I'm going to get good at it because other people who are bad at it also got good at it too. So Aaron's limiting belief was, oh, we have a seasonal business. He broke that by saying, no, it's not a seasonal business. It's a seasonal product. My limiting belief was, oh, I'm unable or I have an inability issue when scaling, when in reality, you're just inexperienced. It's your first time doing it and it's solvable. The way you solve inexperience is through reps. The way you solve a seasonal business or seasonal product is by launching a new product that you can ship during the warm months, which for them was a cooling blanket. So let me break through the exact 5-step framework because you might think that you have some limiting belief and this will actually help you go through the same exercise to break it. So step 1 is you actually need to think of what is a belief I hold in my head that's holding me back. That could be anything from, oh, I'm not a good public speaker, or I'm shy when I talk to people, or I can't figure out this product market fit thing. It could be anything, but you need to first actually just close your eyes if that helps. And every single person has one of these limiting beliefs. Just think, what's a thought that's holding me back right now in some area of my life? Okay, so you pause the video, you need to come up with one limiting belief and you have one. Every single person has one. Again, my limiting belief was I'm incapable of scaling a business. I have an inability issue. So the first part of this framework is asking yourself, is there a rational reason for this belief? That's the first thing. Just ask yourself, is there a rational reason for this belief? And you can double click here by asking, what is the evidence that justifies this statement? What actually objectively proves this is true versus just feelings? When I ask myself this question of what is the actual reason, is it rational to say you have a inability issue or you're incapable of doing this? There's no actual, list of things saying, hey, you're actually physically incapable of doing this. It was just my feeling. So, okay, crap, this was irrational. So that's the first step of the framework. You quickly realize this is actually irrational. Okay, now step 2 of the framework is asking this question. Could you be mistaken in this belief? The answer to this was, wait a second, yes, you could be mistaken. Because if I was truly physically incapable of scaling, I did something before when we started the company, which I'd never done before too, and gotten to this stage, which means I also had never done so many of the things that we've gotten to at this point, but I did them. So wait a second, you're mistaken about this because you've done other things which you didn't know how to do, which you were incapable of, and you've done them before. So you've overcome those hurdles. What's different about this one? So again, step 2 is asking, could you be mistaken about this belief? Step 3 is ask yourself, would you say the same thing to someone else? This is actually a really cool part of the framework because it pulls you out of your own head and allows you just to look out at someone else. So what I realized here is if a friend who is in the exact same position as me in their company said the same thing, saying, hey, I feel like I'm just incapable. I have an inability issue to scale. What I would just tell them is, hey, wait a second. You've gotten to this point. You were quote unquote incapable of getting there until you've done it, right? Everything's delusional or you haven't done it before until you've done it. You're not giving yourself credit. Of course you can do this next thing. You're not going to be good at it first. So that was such a simple question. But once you pull yourself out of your own head and just pretend it's someone else, you realize that you wouldn't say the same thing to someone else. So I realized there, hey, wait a second. I would not say the same thing to someone else. Step 4 is asking yourself, why keep believing that this belief is true? So this is something where you can get a bit introspective, but really ask yourself, what's the benefit of maintaining this belief? I actually found one, which isn't a good benefit, but it's a bit of a crutch. The only benefit I could think of maintaining this belief of I'm incapable of scaling is you then have an excuse if you're not able to scale. But if I really think about it, that's silly because the whole goal is to scale. I don't want an excuse for not scaling. And if I figured out that there's a limiting belief blocking me from that, then there's actually no benefit. So actually ask yourself for your limiting belief, is there any benefit to doing it? Most of the time, I actually think the limiting belief is something that is there because it thinks it's keeping you safe, but in reality, it's just stopping you from doing something uncomfortable, which is typically something you've never done before. Now, step 5, and this is the most powerful part of the entire framework, is you have to reframe it. So I'm going to give you the example from Aaron and myself, and the exercise is for you to reframe it. So again, in Aaron's example, oh crap, we have a seasonal business. This sucks because we don't want to run a business where there's only a month in the year where it works. Crap, we shouldn't do this thing. The reframe was, we don't have a seasonal business. We just have a seasonal product. And if you have a seasonal product, you know what that means? Just build another product, which you can do in the other season. So limiting belief was seasonal business, reframe, not a seasonal business, it's a seasonal product. Okay, now I'll use myself as an example. I have an inability issue. I'm incapable of scaling a business. Wait a second, you don't have an inability issue, you have an experience issue because you've never done it before. But if it's an experience issue, you know exactly how to get experience. Read books, get repetitions, do more of the things you don't know. You don't have an inability issue, you have an inexperience issue. That was the reframe, which completely flipped the script for me. So what I challenge you to do is having that line is really important because it allows you to summarize everything we just went through into a quick maxim. So again, Aaron could just say to himself, I don't have a seasonal business, I have a seasonal product. I can just tell myself, I don't have an inability issue, I have an inexperience issue. And right away, you can snap yourself out of this limiting belief. So anytime here I'm realizing, crap, I'm just not as good as this thing or I've never done it, I just tell myself, I don't have an inability issue, I have an inexperience issue. I believe I'm capable of learning anything with enough time and enough repetition. So this is the final step. And here's the final thing I'll say. If you've come to this point and you're struggling with the reframe, comment down below. I know it might be a bit vulnerable, but comment down below with your limiting belief. If you'd prefer not to comment it, you can actually just message me directly. I'm arjun@doula.com. But I would really encourage you, put it out there, share what your limiting belief is, and I'm happy to help you with that final reframe. And I promise you, it's irrational. You wouldn't say it to someone else. There's probably no reason why you have it. And once you do this, it's gonna unlock that next level of growth because I think so many things in life start with the mind. So I hope this is helpful. That was the 5-step framework for how to break a limiting belief. It worked for Aaron, it worked for me, and I'm positive it can work for you too. And speaking of breaking limiting beliefs, I'm guessing you're watching this or you're here because you're trying to scale a business. I want to give you more time to focus on growing, and that's why my company Doula exists. We're a business in a box, formation, bookkeeping, taxes, all done for you so you can do what you do best while Doula handles the rest. You can head to doula.com and schedule a demo. I'd love to be a part of the journey if I can. Once again, I hope this is valuable. If you did find value, please subscribe to the channel. I put out content like this on the regular. And once again, comment down below with that limiting belief. I'd love to help reframe it. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video.